Welcome everyone to another Performance Clinic Advanced Business Impact Analysis with Dynatrace. Today I have Alistair with me. Alistair, can you quickly introduce yourself, what your role is within Dynatrace?
Hi there guys, it's Alistair here from the UK. I'm a sales engineer over on the other side of the pond.
Perfect. And UK, so you're out of our Maidenhead office, I would assume, right?
That's right, yes, yeah.
Perfect. And I'm out of Linz, Austria today, and I invited you because you actually reached out to the engineering team and you showed some really fantastic things you actually built on top of the Dynatrace USQL and basically the APIs that we provide. And I thought I want to get you in here because what you built is something that I think solves a big problem, or it gives, let's say, exposes more business relevant data to folks that want to understand what is the business impact in case problems arise that Dynatrace detects in your infrastructure and your applications. And having that said, I want to pass it over to you. For everyone that is on the line right now, you can use the question feature in GoToWebinar and put in questions. I will moderate them. Alistair, I try to keep them until the end, but if a question comes in that I think makes sense right now, I may interrupt you. But otherwise, I'll try to keep as quiet as possible. I don't want to interrupt your flow, and that's also why I will kill my video. And I'll talk to you later.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy. Okay, so we'll kick off with the topic today, which is, as Andy said, it's Advanced Business Impact Analysis with Dynatrace. And what we want to do, first of all, is give it a little bit of context as to why we did what we did, what it looks like, and then how you can actually use it as well. So business impact is very different depending on who you're talking to, what the application is, but there's several key themes that you can see on the screen there. One of the most important ones, the ones that so I'll show you that we surface in Dynatrace, is numbers like the number of impacted users. So if you've got lots of problems going on, historically you wouldn't know, do I fix this one first? Do I go and fix that other one that's really high CPU on a box? So that number gives you a bit of focus in terms of which problem do I need to throw all my resources at, which one's actually hurting the most number of users. Tied to that, you've got things like the number of impacted applications. Now, probably everyone that's monitoring the applications they look after will know what they do and how important they are. So if I take that example on the screen there of a problem with easytravel.com, that's our customer-facing website. That's the one that we generate our money through, the one that we get all our bookings from. If it was maybe an internal application, maybe something back office that doesn't get used very often, that might not create as much of a sense of urgency with me, because I know that that's not going to be critical to be fixed over other things that are happening. If you have something that's perhaps not user-based, maybe it's API-driven, so something you use to interact with other companies or other parts of the business, you might have impacted services there. And this could be some sort of authentication, it could be a payment, could be some sort of credit perhaps. And just knowing which endpoint is broken can give you a very good indication as to, again, how urgent that is. And the final one there that I've mentioned is conversion rates. And normally people think of this as, oh, that's purely an e-commerce number. So when people buy stuff, which in fairness is what I've got on the screen there. So open the final page of the booking. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something that's internally related. So if you've got a call center application where people have to submit applications on behalf of customers, or they need to log information, all of those key interactions, they can be set as conversion rates, because if that conversion rate is then low, you know that productivity is low. So it's not always about making money. It can be about productivity and how well people can actually do their job in general. So at the moment, what you get in Dynatrace in a problem ticket, which is the example I've got on the screen there, is on the left-hand side, you've got business impact, and that includes the number of users where it's relevant, and that could be people on desktop devices, mobile devices. Underneath of that, you've got either impacted applications or services, depending on how broad the impact of this problem is. And obviously, one of our amazing things there is a root cause analysis on the right-hand side. So aside from who's affected, what they're doing, what's the bit that we need to fix to make all of this go away? So the only downfall that we could see at the moment was if we had two very similar problems like this, so problem A that's got about just under 1,200 users, problem B is just over 1,200 users. They're affecting slightly different things, slightly different root causes as well. In terms of throwing people at the right problem, this is where we engaged with a few customers and they wanted to know which one's costing me money or which one is stopping people from doing their jobs. And that's the main questions they wanted to answer. Now, you could take the approach of this guy here. You could do it randomly. You could split half your team on problem A, half your team on problem B, which is, from the information there, is fair enough. It's a large volume of users on two different applications. What we decided to do was take a look at how you could do this manually, and then, in the spirit of what Dynatrace is doing, try and automate this as well. So in a manual world, you may not have actually used it much, but that number of impacted users that's on the screen there, that is actually something that is a hyperlink, that is clickable. If you click through on that, it will take you into the user sessions view. And if you can see it on the screen there, just here, I can then split the users out by if they've converted or not. If they have converted, which conversion goals have they gone to? Which is why one of the things we did with a telco customer was to define the contact us page as a conversion goal. So we could see if during a problem there was an increase in traffic to the contact us or the help pages to see if that was driving up call center costs. So that was an interesting way to see of all those people, did they then buy something? Did they contact us? What did they do? The other side to that is there is a section, if you go into applications within Dynatrace and look at the user behavior side instead of the performance side, there is a whole section there on conversion goals, exit pages, a whole wealth of things. What we did on this was specifically we looked at the checkout, which is this one here, and we manually compared between these historical timeframes, which are these two on the left here, and then the problem one that we had, which is this one on the end. So we manually calculated that it was about 400 orders they'd lost during that time because in this case it was a terrible bit of JavaScript that had gone out, which really broke the page for people. They couldn't actually continue. In this case, it was buying broadband. So a lot of this, as I say, was very manual. So clicking through, charting things up. And that's where we started to look at, can we actually automate this? So can we make this part of that Dynatrace problem? And there's two features coming out very soon which really help with that. The first one there, we've got the top there, it's all around user context, and it's something called session properties. So at the moment, if we take this on the left here, we're getting a whole load of information about someone, like what resolution they're on, what OS they're on, what device they're on. And the bit that's configurable there is we can see a user tag for this person. So we know, for example, what their username is, if it's an internal user perhaps. What we don't know is what was this person searching for, how much money were they worth, and this is where session properties comes in because it adds value and it adds context. The context to this, if I flip over to the right-hand side, is I know, for example, what this person was searching for. I know what travel agent the holiday was with that they booked, and you can tell this is test because they're also buying a 5-year fixed mortgage. But I also know in their basket there was $738.20. So that's where the value comes in. So I can assign a monetary value to that person. In terms of the context side, very good for troubleshooting. So if I know what they're doing and lots of attributes about them, I can start to build up a picture of what's common between people that have a problem, for example. And there is a link to a blog post at the bottom there, which gives you a good idea of what these session properties are and what you can do with them. And that brings me on to the second point here, which is, well, there is technically already there a user session query language. Now, there's a ton of data that we collect from the user and their device. So whether it's web, native mobile, or perhaps even some sort of IoT device as well, if that's relevant. What the query language lets us do is think of a question. So, for example, on the left there, you've got Iron Man asking how much revenue is attached to users with poor performance. And that's a question that a lot of people want to know. It's not a question a lot of people have put too much effort into asking, but now it's so easy to do that. So I've just written a simple query there where I'm grabbing the sum of all the basket value from people where they have a page load of over 10 seconds. And I'm calling that revenue at risk. So I think that anyone who has a page load longer than 10 seconds is probably quite annoyed. So if I sum up all the basket value of those people, I can tell how much is potentially at risk from poor performance. There's many other ways that you could look to quantify this. So you could add errors in there. You could add if they've visited multiple pages, that type of thing, if they've gone to the help section. But this is really just answering questions that you can think of. At the bottom there, and I'll show this briefly in the live section, the query language is available on the Dynatrace API at the moment. So that query right there, you could throw at the API and you could get that value back. So if you wanted to chart it somewhere, that's definitely possible.
Hey, Alistair, just quickly, first of all, a reminder that people can ask questions. Just put them into the question feature, and one question just came in, and just a reminder, the recording of this will be available both on Dynatrace University as well as on YouTube, and the deck will also be available on Dynatrace University. All right, so because people are asking, do I need to write down these links? You don't have to. Well, you can, but the deck will also be available later on. And if you have any questions, just put them into the question feature of GoToWebinar. I will moderate.
Cool, perfect. Thank you, Andy. So yeah, don't worry too much about writing those down. We'll briefly go through them. Then, as you said, you will have the deck. So, as I say, at the moment, this is available in the API. It's going to be coming into the Dynatrace interface. And the reason that these two can come together is because I can query through those session properties. So I've put a list of examples that you can do here. Probably the main one that's relevant to this is at the very bottom there, you've got assigning a value to users. So how much revenue was in users' baskets that did not convert? So that could be potential revenue. So they've added something, they've clicked around, they've done a search, didn't buy anything. And that can either be performance related or not. And that's where we can add more stuff into our query to say, okay, what was the response time of those people and how many errors did they have? And at the bottom there, we've got a purely business one. So what is the conversion rate for everyone searching for Paris? So have a browse of those. These are the sorts of things that I was thinking of when I was trying to come up with what we can do here. And because the query language is available via an API, and because I can give people a value, this enables you to automate things. So what we thought is we'll take a problem ticket because that's where all the information that we want resides. And what we'll do is we'll add in a section. You may have seen the preview in the webinar introduction, but we'll add this section at the bottom there. So what we're doing is, in addition to number of impacted users, we're saying define some conversion goals or some session properties if it's a number, so like a basket value or a revenue number. What the plugin will do is it will say, okay, during this problem time frame, which is this one here, what was the total basket value? How many checkouts did we have? how many people were checking their order details, and it will compare it with the same time frame for yesterday and for last week. So I know, compared to normal, how was that conversion rate or that session property, how is that deviated? So this is actually an anonymized but real example, the section in green there. And this was a problem that was for a clothing company, like an online clothing company. And they had a problem on a Sunday evening. Yes, Sunday evening. So when we looked at the figures compared to the previous day, they were up. And apparently that's normal because generally people that buy from them are out on a Saturday night, so the figures are much lower than anyway. If we compared it to the same time frame on the previous Sunday, everything was down. So during the hour that this problem happened, this actually cost orders and this stopped people converting. So if we had two problems at the same time, I know from this information, this one is hurting our business figures. This one is important to fix. And that's really the essence of what we wanted to do, is give a problem some sense of business urgency as well, based upon your personal conversion goals and your attributes, or your session properties as we've called them. Andy, is there any more questions in the chat before we move on?
There are some questions, but I think let's keep them to the end, because I think that makes more sense to put them in the end. And again, a reminder: put questions into the question feature of GoToWebinar.
Perfect, thank you. So with that, what we'll do is we'll switch over to the demo. So I'll walk you through the plugin. So don't worry about writing down the link to where it is and things, because we can send that to you. That's not a problem. So if I quickly go offline here, there we go. Perfect. And what I'll do is I'll just bring up my browser here. There we go. Awesome. Is that coming through okay for everyone right now? And is that okay for you, Andy?
Yeah, that looks very good.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So there was a couple of features there that I mentioned that's coming into to Dynatrace. So there was the session properties and the query language. Just wanted to briefly show you those before we jump into the plugin, so you know where those values are coming from and how those are worked out. So if I go under my applications that are on the left-hand side there we go. We've got, as you'd expect, several different applications, and I'm going to pick on the Easy Travel application here. There we go. Perfect. So this is what you would normally see. So you've got your performance analysis, you've got user behavior on the right, which is where I said you could look at conversion goals and exit pages and all those lovely things. If I go and edit this, there we go. Underneath user tag, which is where we would set up, putting people's usernames and things like that, you'll notice something called session properties in there. And this is where I can define all those lovely values that I can assign to people. Now, in this one, there's just one, which is the basket value, which I've pulled through. There is, and in fact, that's one of the main examples that we've got there. One of the other ones that I do quite like here, which is this one, if you can read that okay. So if you're doing A/B testing, you could tag people via whatever is available to say if they're getting version A or version B, which means then I can go through and query, okay, what's the conversion rate for A versus B, which is something you can do with the tool anyway, but then add a performance layer onto it. So what's the failure rate for A versus B, and what's the response times or the visually complete metrics for those? So the one that's defined here, if I just open that one. So this is our basket value, as I mentioned, and I know a lot of people are really looking forward to these, and hopefully I have some very good news in here. So this value is a double, so a number. It could also be text, it could be a date, it could be a string, which is, there we go, these ones here. Where I'm grabbing it out from currently is a CSS selector, which is awesomely easy in Chrome. I can just right-click on it and copy the selector automatically. The other options you've got, and you may recognize some of these from user tags if you've used them before, there is JavaScript variables, meta tags, cookie values, and hopefully the one you'd be most excited about, because I know a lot of people quite want it, is the server-side request attribute there. So at the moment, you can set up those request attributes under the settings and get information from a method argument or a return value, that type of thing. If I scroll down a little bit, all I've done to this one is put a rule on it to take out the $sign, because it's a number that I'm trying to grab out. And so that's how easy it is to just extract a basket value from a page. Some of the other ones I did on there were things like the travel agent, which was exposed on like the order summary, that type of thing. Where you can see these values is if we just jump over to user sessions on the left-hand side. There we go. Normally this filtering at the top, it will have quite a few values in. When you've got session properties, this is when you get a few more options. So R1 was a double, and it was called this app session property here. So either I could click on these, which because we've got such a fixed amount of holidays in here, we get some top values there. What I could do is I say, I want to see everyone with a basket value over 100, as an example. So this gives me a list of all those people that have over $100 in their basket. If I pick on Maria, there we go. So Maria's done quite a few different sessions in here. If I just choose one of them, this is where, think back to the slides, this is where we had all of our lovely contextual information, but now we know things like how much was in Maria's basket at that time. So this is where you can see it at an individual user level, and it's on the previous screen there that I can filter by it. So as I say, more than 100 or more, or under 1,000, or maybe we want to do greater than 100, but also show me people that have had an error as well, which is only Maria in this case. So if I want to focus down on those people affected by performance, that's exactly how I can do that. So the other side that we've mentioned is the user session query language, and that's where we can start to combine some of these. And I'm going to use this one over here just to show you that. There we go. Perfect. So if I go from user sessions into user session query, it had a brief screenshot of it on the slides there. This is the actual interface that will be in the GUI, so not the API version. This will be where I can go and query whatever I want. So if I do something like select some of, let's get our double property, and let's call it total basket from user sessions. Cool, there we go. So what that's gone through and done is in the last 2 hours, get me the total amount of basket value that's flowed through the application. I could go and get a bit more complicated, so I'm going to pull in a query here, which is a bit more in depth, which is this one here. So what this is going to do is chart over time the basket value of the revenue at risk like we had before, but where the user action duration, so the page loads are longer than 5 seconds, and we've had an error. And this is actually charting it over time. So it's charting it hourly. So this is how I can start to build up the views or the data that I want. In time, you will be able to put these on dashboards, so you can have a full-on business dashboard which shows you revenue at risk in real time. It can show you total amount of revenue split by, in our case, travel agents. So there's so many things that you can do when you combine the query language and the session properties. So just to get all the way back around to our Chrome plugin, obviously these are all the great things that we want to know about. What we've done with it is built this plugin. So I've hosted it on the Chrome store. We will be sharing the link within the slides so that you can try it out for yourselves. And if there is any feedback, please do let us know, because we're always looking to improve what's shown on there, maybe show different metrics, maybe make certain bits more configurable. And I just want to show you firstly how to set it up, and also what it then looks like once you've done that. So if I flick back into my Dynatrace tenant, I've already added this plugin into here, so Dynatrace Business Impact. And the little icon that you can see there is a purple briefcase. So what I'll do is, if I just lost the mouse, there we go. If we open that up, let's start from scratch. So when you get this plugin, there we go, and you open it for the first time, this is what you're going to see. So as long as you're on a Dynatrace SaaS or managed environment, it will open up the plugin like this. If you're on another page, there we go, it'll just give you a little reminder you need to be within a Dynatrace environment to do this. So if I jump back in there we go. So the first thing I want to do is enable this. One key thing that you will need is an API key, which is what goes in here. And as it says in the hint text there, this API key will need access to the query language. And if I just go into settings, there we go. And if I go into integration and Dynatrace APIs, which is here, you can see I've set up a few, but if I show you the one that I've been using, there's a little tick box here. So user session query language. This is the one that it will need to do all the clever stuff around looking at revenue impact and conversion impact, etc. So if I open up, there we go, open that up. If I paste in my API key, and once I hit save, it's going to go and query all of the conversion goals that have been happening within my Dynatrace environment. So it's split by application and then by the specific goal that you've named it. So in mine, I've got about 5 different conversion goals there. And all you've got to do is choose the ones that you specifically want to see within a problem. So I might want to see things like if payments are affected, and I want to see if logins are affected, because if people aren't logging in and engaging and kind of getting that whole loyalty factor, that can reduce sales over time. I also want to see if search is working, because the whole point of Easy Travel is you search for a holiday and you book the holiday. The final one here, which will be, it's an optional value, which if I delete that, you'll see. When session properties become available to you, you can define these as things that you want to track. So in here, I've got one that's called basket, which is this one here. So mine's all ready to go. So I've ticked off my conversion goals. I've plugged in my business metrics there. And if I hit save, there we go. Probably need to add some feedback for that. That's now saved it into local storage. And every time I visit a new tenant or a new environment, this will be relevant for the one that I'm viewing. So if I go back and view this other one here, there we go. You can see the pop-up is relevant to the tenant or the environment I'm looking at. So it's got the specific conversion goals and specific metrics for this tenant. So let's jump back into our environment here. There we go. So if I jump into problems, and if I look back over the past couple of days, there's not too many horrific ones which happen in here, which is obviously a shame. And let's find one that's perhaps been a slowdown. There we go. So you've got this user action degradation, which is this one here. If I click into this problem, you'll see it's started to already slot in the business metric analysis. And so what it's doing right now is it's calling the API in the background and saying, okay, I'm on this particular problem, and these are the conversion goals I want to analyze. So show me the values for those in the current time frame, the previous time frame. And what it will do now is add in that analysis. So during this particular problem, payments were down and not much variation compared with yesterday. But if you look at the same day last week, so it will be Tuesday last week, payments are down 8.46%, which, considering there's thousands of users on Easy Travel, that's quite a lot. And the amount in people's baskets was, again, down 13.06%, which is quite a lot when you take into account there's been $950,000 worth in, 43 minutes. So this is the automatic analysis that it will add into the problem alongside everything else. Andy, has there been any questions so far on any of this?
Yeah.
Anything that's relevant for now?
Yeah, they have. Well, I think you've answered some of them already. And first of all, this is just like looking at this is a really cool way of using the APIs and all the capabilities and just showing how much you can do with automation. The first one that came up, is the plugin available on the Chrome store? And I guess you already showed it that it is available on the Chrome store. And I think is it still under review, or how does this work? Or if you have the right link, then...
Yeah, so this, my latest version with some fixes in got published. So the link I've got on the screen there, I'll put it into the slides. And that's the one that people can use right now. So that's version 1.1.
Well, perfect. That's great. Then the other question that came in, is it possible to add a dollar sign or like a currency sign in front of like the value that you have here? I'm sure this is something that you can change in your plugin, because I'm sure you're modifying the DOM here, right? Something that you may want to think and add, so like add a dollar sign or add a currency sign to it.
Yeah, so I to not discriminate against anyone, I kept it very generic initially. But what I can add in is perhaps under this section here, you could add a numeric property and then choose the currency sign, or even input your own currency sign just to make it free flow.
Yeah, or maybe even provide just a format string, like a format string, and you say you can do like whatever you want, and with a placeholder, and then you just replace it with. You can even have multiple business metrics here, right? I mean, that's whatever you. Yeah. Just some thoughts. The other question is, in which version of Dynatrace can we expect this feature to be released? And I think there we need to say what you built here, right, is a plugin in Chrome that is capturing and pulling in these metrics and then displaying it on the fly. And that plugin is available, but it relies on the session properties and the USQL, which I believe are currently all in early access. I think you have it in the links that you put on your slides. It's not public available. We're still working on it, and I think this is also where we wanna. The product management team really wants feedback on what else should we put in there before we make it GA. Which other use cases? Yeah, but this is for the folks that ask the question. When is this available? You may want to reach out and look at the blog post that announce session properties and USQL, and then you can follow up with the product team here. Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just a quick note that you can use the plugin right now with just conversion goals. So the session properties obviously are awesome because they're monetary. But if you want to use it now, as long as you've got an API token and some conversion goals, you can apply it right now or use it.
That's cool.
Right now,
yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, of course, because the conversion goals have been in the product since almost the beginning, right? And so that's awesome. And I really like what you mentioned earlier, right? I mean, if you look at this screen, the comparing it with the correct time frame, like yesterday versus last week, it really depends. If you have a quote unquote seasonal business, you always want to compare it with the right, let's say, comparable time frame. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say, it was mainly prompted by that company where they had very different traffic on each day. So where they had the problem on the Sunday, which looked fine compared to yesterday, but yeah, versus last week, it was not great.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of questions coming in now. Maybe we just really move over to Q&A, which means I think it's okay to show our faces again so that people know we're not just robots. The next question is it possible to define different metrics for different applications? Because I believe right now, I mean, you actually show the conversion rate, right, for the different apps. So I assume you will only show the conversion rate here in case that problem is impacting an app that provides that conversion rate. So it's kind of already application specific.
So at the moment it will actually it's fixed to use the ones that you define, but that is something that I do want to do where only if it's affecting, for example, Easy Travel USQL, will it show those relevant ones in there. So alongside the currency figure, that's definitely something that I need/want to add in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another, if I read Chuck is the one asking, probably the question is, can we maybe also pull in different metrics, maybe something that is not conversion, but any other metric, right? Something like an app text or something, response time, page load time, something like this. That would actually be also interesting to then maybe chart it, right? Put the chart of the response time there, right?
That's
cool.
Very true. Yeah. So that is definitely something that you could do, and they wouldn't necessarily have to be hard coded actually. So I've put specifically a section here for conversion goals, but you could have a tick box for response times and things like that, or even a metric browser as well.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe we want to also do a shout out here to the Davis team, because I know, Alistair, you talk with the Davis team, right? Because they try to, they also want to make it easier, and they're making it easier to get this type of data that you need in the context of where you're analyzing data right now. But in your case, your context is a problem, and you show more relevant data to that problem. And then with the Davis team to do the same thing, if you have a chat with Davis through, for instance, a Slack integration or our chat integration, then you can ask now with the latest version of Davis, show me a chart of the response time of this particular application that has an issue. And I think you had a chat with Mike and with Daniel and share some of the stuff that you've built here, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's cool.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's one more. Let's see. The plugin is available in the store. Are there any plans for this to be integrated into the product itself versus being provided through a plugin? Have you talked with, let's say, Wolfgang or folks?
So it's definitely something they're very interested in, and I think we're going to use this as a kind of a learning/feedback for what people want from this. So all the suggestions that people have made so far, I can put this back into the plugin, and then we can have another round of feedback to then present back to the product managers as an overall to see what sort of stuff people want to have thrown in here. So yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Then the next, I think we have had this question multiple times now. When are the session properties going to be available for everyone? And I think this is something that the product management team will decide once they think it's fully GA ready. I believe the latest that I've heard is probably in Q1. Right? I mean, that's almost around the corner. But it really, like Carl and Cesar and everybody who is asking these questions, make sure to look at the blog post around session properties. Then you will find ways to get in touch with the product management team, because they are actively asking for feedback. So I would suggest that channel here. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think that's. Let me just double check, but I think that's the questions we have right now. Do you want to? I mean, we still have. If people have questions, just put them into the question feature. Alistair, anything else you want to show? I want to go back to the slides and finish the slides.
Yeah. So there was one more thing I wanted to mention whilst we're in the browser here. So you mentioned that the API allows you to do the query language so far. So if you do go into the help pages for Dynatrace and scroll down to Dynatrace API here, there is a whole section, there we go, at the bottom there. So user session query language. So you can go through there and learn about what you can do and what formats of data that you can get back. If you want to see what this is doing specifically, because the queries are always dynamic depending on when you access it and what you've picked, you can see that in the Chrome DevTools. So either an F12 or a right click. If we go to network there, there we go. That's the one. If I wait for that to load, and what we'll see popping up there, there we go, is these ones you see here which says table on it. These are the ones where we're actually calling into the query language. So you can see the query that's been built up. And the main bit that's dynamic for this is things like the start and the end timestamp. So that we're actually doing the specific time frames. So it's possible to see that completely freely. And I'm working on getting the source code up onto GitHub, so you can take a look if you want to. So if you wanted to try and change anything, any ideas that you might have, it's all written in JavaScript, so it's fairly easy to modify it. And I have, if I've still got it open here, there we go. I have tried to comment it perhaps too much so that you understand actually what's going on throughout the life cycle of what it's doing. So yeah, I'll try and make that available as well.
There's typically never the problem of too much code commentation.
Fair enough. Yeah.
That's what I know from my experience. That is very awesome, and yeah, thanks for the tip on the reverse engineering here by looking at your queries. That's cool. By the way, a little tip. I will probably delete that API token later on because I'm sure many people have noticed your tenant ID and the API token. They will pound your tenant with a lot of APIs because I know these people out there.
Oh no, don't worry. I've got another one ready.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. Let's switch back to the slides just to sum it up, and then let's see if there's more questions that are coming in.
Yeah, perfect. So let me just get those ready. There we go. Awesome.
Yeah, just some reminders for everyone. So the recording is up there. It will be uploaded thanks to Denise, both on Dynatrace University as well as on the YouTube channel. Now, if you do not yet have access to Dynatrace, you can just get your own trial. Either follow that bit.ly link here, the one on the top, or just go to the website and sign up for the trial. There's a lot of other events that are coming up, user group, local events where I participate, conferences. I also have a podcast called Pure Performance with my colleague, Brian Wilson. I encourage you to watch that. And talking about Perform, our upcoming conference, if you want to move to the next slide, please. We have Las Vegas coming up, end of January, where we actually kick it off with a hot day, hands-on training day, where we teach you in two classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Like there's many classes to choose from, but you can get educated on how to use Dynatrace in different cloud environments for business analytics. There's a lot of cool sessions there. And then obviously the conference itself, where we have different folks talking about their experience. And what else do I want to say? Other regions obviously have their own performs. And check it out. So if you go to perform.dynatrace.com, you will get all the links. Now, Marcel is asking the link to the Chrome extension. If you, Alistair, I think it is in the slides. They will be uploaded to Dynatrace University. But if the plugin is already on Google Chrome, can you just find it by searching for Dynatrace?
At the moment, you need the direct link to see it.
Okay.
So I'll make sure it's definitely in there. Yeah.
Perfect. So Marcel and anybody else, the webinar recording, including the slides, will be uploaded to Dynatrace University. There you go under the Dynatrace educational material. You'll find a section called Dynatrace webinars, and there you will find it. And I'm sure there will be, if you're registered for this webinar, there will also be a follow-up email. So I will just make sure that in the follow-up email, the link will also be included. Right? Cool. Alistair, thank you so much. This was really awesome.
No problem. Thank you.
Right. If you have anything else coming up in the future, I always like to have you talk about creative new things, new ideas that we can build on top of the Dynatrace platform.
Yes, I'll keep them coming. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. And for everybody else out there, if anybody has suggestions on future topics, just let me know. Right. My name is Andreas Grabner. I guess you can figure out what the email is. First name dot last name at dynatrace.com. And or reach out to me with anything else. Happy to come up with new performance clinic ideas to cover topics that you're interested in. All right, now I think this is the second to last show. Yes, Ivan, the next question, the slides will be shared. It's PowerPoint slides, correct? They will be shared and put up on Dynatrace University. There will be one more performance clinic in 2 weeks on the 19th, I believe, on advanced AWS. So you want to watch out for that. I think you can already register for it. And as I said earlier, well, tell us what you want to see. And if I don't see you before the holidays, happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Cool. Thank you, guys.